Hey guys, today I will be discussing chapter 1 of how to read a book. I want to keep it short, so here goes. Uh, Another request. I would love feedback because it's a new thing and I am looking to improve it. So do feel free to write to me about what you think. So chapter 1 of this book is called The Activity and Art of Reading. This book lays out its purposes very clearly and simply in the first few lines. This book is for people who want to gain an increased understanding when reading books. So the author starts off with discussing active reading. So active reading is all about reading actively, as the name suggests, but all reading is an active process. Reading can be less active or it can be more active depending on the kind of book or the type of reading we are doing. If one is actively reading, then one can completely understand what the author is trying to say. However, sometimes that is not the case. Sometimes you might read an author in a more passive fashion and find that you don't quite understand what the author is saying. The book promises to come back and discuss active reading more because that's exactly what the book is about. So the next topic that the author discusses is the goals of reading, reading for information, and reading for understanding. Here the author is trying to create a powerful distinction between the two things. He speaks about how the two are wildly different things and how each one of them needs to be approached in a different way. Reading for information is mostly about reading newspapers, articles in magazines, articles elsewhere that are completely intelligible to us. What he is saying that what the author is saying is that the author of the news piece or the magazine article and you, the reader, are at an equal level. So you guys, so there is no problem in understanding what the news piece or the magazine article is talking about. Now, if you get more information, you could definitely understand more. But it is different from reading for understanding. The conditions for reading for understanding are: 1. There is initially inequality in understanding. The writer must be superior to the reader in their understanding, and the book must convey in readable form the insights he possesses and his potential readers lack. The reader must be able to overcome this inequality in some degree. This is the second point, the second condition for reading for understanding. In short, what the author is saying is that we can only learn from our betters, and thus these are prerequisites for reading for understanding. We must know who they are, the authors, and how to learn from them. There is another goal for reading, that for entertainment, but this book does not deal with that, and it's very explicit about that. So we're not going to be going in reading for entertainment. Reading as learning. So this is the next topic that I think the author again wants to impress on us, that reading, the reason for really pursuing the goal of active reading is to look at reading as learning. The difference between learning by instruction and learning by discovery. So getting more information is learning, and so is coming to understand what you did not understand before. But there is a difference between the two. To be informed is to simply know that something is the case. To be enlightened is to know, in addition, what it is all about, why it is the case, what its connections are with other facts, in what respects it is the same, in what respects it is different, and so forth. It is like the difference between being able to remember something and being able to explain it. Basically, if you only remember what an author says, then what you are exercising is memory only. You have not been enlightened. Enlightenment happens when you know what the author means and why he's saying it. Of course, being informed is a prerequisite for being enlightened. The point, however, is not to stop at just being informed. There's a really interesting quote that the book uses as an example. So the author says, Montaigne speaks of an Abecedarian ignorance that precedes knowledge and a doctoral ignorance that comes after it. So the first is the ignorance of people who don't even know their ABCDs. The second is the ignorance of those who have misread many books. Alexander Pope calls them bookful blockheads or ignorantly reads. The literate ignoramuses who have read extensively but not well are called sophomores by the Greeks. And so we must avoid the error of thinking that being widely read means one is well read. And this comes from the distinctions in learning. So the author next discusses the distinctions in learning, and he says that there is learning by instruction and there is learning by discovery. Instruction occurs when one person teaches another through speech or writing. We can gain knowledge, however, without needing to be taught. That process is learning by discovery. Learning by research, investigation, reflection, without being taught. And another point the author really tries to impress is that learning by discovery is an extremely essential part of learning, because if there was no learning by discovery, then there'd be no learning at all, because learning by instruction only happens when there has been learning by discovery already. So instruction is essentially aided discovery. There's a teacher who will guide you through the process, but at the end of the day, it's the student. So the knowledge can be spoken of, but it eventually has to grow in the student's head for it to start making sense. In a way, reading and listening are the same things, or the same art, and that art is the art of being taught. So here, focus is on reading well, because reading can happen when one is alone. And if one is skilled in the art of learning alone, one can do amazing things. Because there is no barrier to learning if you have a book with you and you know how to extract the maximum out of it. So I've covered a lot of points of the first chapter. This is a really nice chapter in terms of laying the foundation for the rest of the book, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the book now.